In the hallowed halls of the Midgar Spell Sword Academy, Princess Iris Midgar addressed the science faculty, her voice ringing with authority. She spoke of the recent attacks on the capital, declaring a full-scale investigation and a need for the Academy's brightest minds. In a more private setting, surrounded by aides, she formally requested the assistance of the school's #1 prodigy. "What do you say, Miss Sherry Barnett?" Iris asked, her gaze fixed on the quiet, unassuming student. Sherry, a student of the science faculty, examined the evidence with wide, curious eyes. The artifact was inscribed with ancient runes, but the text was protected by a sophisticated encryption that would take time to decipher. She wondered aloud where they could have possibly found such a thing. Iris explained it was their only lead, found in the remains of a base belonging to a shadowy group called the Diabolos Cult. The truth behind the base's utter annihilation and her sister's kidnapping remained shrouded in mystery. Iris hoped that deciphering the artifact would provide the answers they desperately needed. Sherry hesitated, admitting that while ancient languages were her specialty, she was still just a student. Her adoptive father, Vice Principal Ruslan Barnett, offered a gentle push. "Sherry, this sounds like a good opportunity. You should take it." He had no doubt she would become a great researcher, and this task was surely a step toward that bright future. Sherry looked at the vice principal, her resolve hardening. Ruslan smiled warmly, suggesting she could just call him Daddy, while Iris, all business, promised to assign guards, knowing the cult might try to retrieve their property. With the memory of Zenon's betrayal still fresh, Iris admitted she couldn't fully trust the knights. That was why Sherry's protection would be handled by a new organization she had personally founded, the Crimson Knights. She turned to a scarred, imposing man beside her. "Glenn, you can take this, right?" he affirmed without hesitation. Not to be left out, Princess Alexia interjected, insisting she be part of the guard detail as someone involved from the very beginning. Her true motive, she declared, was to uncover the goals of the man in black, Shadow, and determine if he was friend or foe. Iris immediately shot down the idea, worried her sister would be exposed to danger again. Alexia, however, had an ace up her sleeve. "Then perhaps it's time to let the people know how you're sleeping each night while hugging a bear plushie." She continued her merciless blackmail, threatening to reveal that her sister's panties had bunnies on them. Defeated and blushing furiously, Iris relented, assigning Alexia to less dangerous tasks and ordering Sherry to forget everything she had just heard. Sherry and Alexia shared a triumphant smile. Meanwhile, on the bustling city streets, life went on. Cid Kagenoh walked with his two friends, who were pestering him about his recent and very public breakup with Princess Alexia. He deadpanned that their relationship was over. When asked if he even got a kiss, Cid replied with grim satisfaction that she was more interested in smacking his internal organs. His friend Hiro tried to cheer him up with a grin and a platitude. "Well, chin up, pal. There's plenty of fish in the sea." Hiro then offered to take the heartbroken Cid to a nice place, which his other friend Jaga immediately assumed meant something raunchy. Hiro scoffed, pointing them toward a massive line of people snaking down the street. It was the talk of the town, a new store called Mitsugoshi Trading. Hiro explained the store sold all sorts of novelties, with a candy called chocolate being its most popular item. He pitched a foolproof plan. Gift some chocolate to a girl, and she'll fall head over heels. With this strategy, even they could be swarmed by ladies. Jaga was impressed by the master strategist, while Cid, unimpressed by his friend's antics, was merely curious about the chocolate. As Cid pondered what kind of chocolate this world had to offer, a cheerful employee named Nu greeted the customers. She announced with a professional smile that the store was terribly busy, and the wait to get inside could be as long as 80 minutes. Hayaro and Jaga were aghast. At that rate, they would barely make it back before the Academy's curfew. Jaga nervously brought up the recent rumors of a slasher roaming the capital at night, which piqued Cid's interest. The slasher was apparently quite skilled, having already inflicted casualties on the knights. Hayaro, undeterred, insisted they were 3 spell swords and could handle it. They had come this far, after all. While Hayaro immediately began a stuttering attempt to flirt with the employee, Nu turned her attention directly to Cid, asking if he had time for a quick survey. His friends, desperate for the pretty girl's attention, eagerly volunteered themselves. "Thank you, but we only need 1 person," Nu replied with a polite but firm smile, shutting them down completely. As she led Cid away, he glanced back at his friends, who looked as if they had just lost the most important game of their lives. Nu led Cid through the sparkling interior of the store. The shelves were lined with dazzling displays of sweets and pastries. Other aisles were stocked with jars of coffee and other goods. Cid was stunned. The place looked exactly like a department store from his previous life. He wondered what kind of trading company could possibly create something like this, as Nu led him up a grand staircase. He found himself standing before a massive, ornate door, thoroughly confused. He asked where he was supposed to fill out the survey, but Nu just giggled. "That was just an excuse. Please, head inside." She swung the doors open. Before him was a grand hall, glittering under a massive chandelier. A line of women in uniform stood at attention before a throne. A beautiful woman with long dark hair rose from the throne. "We've been awaiting your arrival, my lord." Cid stared in shock. It was Gamma, the 3rd member of his imaginary 7 Shades. He internally recalled that while she possessed the craftiest mind of the original 7, she was also a klutz. She greeted him warmly, noting it had been a few years. As she descended the steps to greet him, she promptly tripped over her own feet and face-planted on the floor, perfectly proving his point. Deeply embarrassed, Gamma apologized for the display. She recovered her composure and gestured toward the throne, explaining that the entire hall had been built for his sake alone. She explained that as Shadow Garden's numbers grew, she felt a great hall was necessary. Cid, meanwhile, was having an internal meltdown. How had his little group of fakers grown this big? He sank into the throne, trying to look the part of a cool, mysterious leader. I'll say this. The view is decent, at least." He mused that the expensive-looking set really made him feel like he was ruling the world of shadows. To play his part, he clenched his fist, gathering magic. He unleashed a shower of glowing purple particles. "Your reward. Take it." The women of Shadow Garden looked up in awe, but Gamma was overcome with emotion. "Ah, this purple magic!" She fell to her knees, tears in her eyes, remembering the soothing light that had saved her when she was nothing but a human husk. She thanked him not only for saving her life, but for bestowing upon her the shadow wisdom. A flashback revealed the source of this profound wisdom. Cid, years ago, casually telling her to eat some beans to get strong. He had also mentioned offhandedly that other beans could be used to make chocolate or coffee. From these scraps of knowledge from his past life, Gamma's brilliant mind had constructed an entire commercial empire, the Mitsugoshi Trading Company. Cid sat on his throne, processing this. Enormous, was it? He asked Gamma to explain the extent of the company's influence. She proudly reported that they had branches in every major city, both at home and abroad. With Lady Alpha's help, management was smooth, and they were securing massive funds for Shadow Garden's expansion. Cid's eyes widened in sheer, unadulterated shock. Gamma flinched, misinterpreting his silence as displeasure. Forgive me! Such a meager presence is hardly worth mentioning next to your great power, she cried, prostrating herself on the floor. She swore they would grow even larger and stronger to be worthy of Shadow Garden. Cid, however, was having a very different internal monologue, fuming that they had used his ideas to get rich and left him out of the profits, forcing him to scrape up coins like a commoner. Gamma, still kneeling, assumed his visit was about that matter. Cid, having absolutely no idea what that matter was, played along. Indeed. Gamma apologized, admitting their investigation had stalled. They were hunting the slasher who dressed in black, a fool claiming to be from Shadow Garden. She swore she would bring them down. An impostor? Cid was stunned. A real one actually existed. His mind raced. Could it be? He recalled Alexia's recent unprovoked attack on him. Yes, it had to be her. Cid stood, a smirk playing on his lips. I have a hunch about the culprit. I'll look into it as well. Gamma stared, amazed. He had already reached the answer? She berated herself for her own incompetence. While they had mobilized so many people without finding a single clue, their lord already understood the whole picture. She called over Nu. Gamma introduced the new recruit, whose skills had already been approved by Lady Alpha. Nu bowed. My name is Nu. Please use me as your liaison whenever necessary. Cid gave a curt nod, saying he would call for her when the need arose. As he turned to leave, he stopped. Oh, also, he switched instantly into mob mode, a friendly grin plastered on his face. He asked to buy 3 boxes of the cheapest chocolate, and cheekily requested a friend discount. Gamma, beaming, promised to prepare their finest chocolates, free of charge. Under the light of the full moon, Cid and his friends sprinted through the dark city streets, desperate to make it back before the academy gates closed. Jaga grilled him about what he was doing with the pretty lady, but Cid just grumbled that the survey took a long time. Suddenly, Cid froze. He heard the distinct sound of a sword clashing nearby. His friends called out to him, wondering why he'd stopped. Gamma's words about an impostor echoed in his mind. This was his chance. Forgive me, friends. You must go on without me. His friends stared, confused, as Cid launched into the most dramatic performance of his life, claiming he had an urgent need to use the restroom. They couldn't just leave him, but he insisted he had to settle this battle alone. His friends looked at each other in horrified disbelief. Was he really choosing his dignity over the curfew? Cid clutched his stomach, crying out that he couldn't hold it in any longer. His friends finally broke. With tearful goodbyes, they promised they would still be friends, even if he soiled himself in the streets, and ran for the gates as he heroically waved them on. Alone at last, Cid dashed down the alley, following the sound. Peeking around a corner, he saw Alexia. He wondered what she was doing out so late, his suspicion that she was the slasher returning full force. She stood with her sword drawn, telling her opponent to give up. Facing her was a figure in a dark, hooded cloak, who simply stated, "Shadow Garden." Cid's eyes widened. Alexia pressed the figure, asking why they were attacking innocent people. "What does the man called Shadow want? What are your goals?" she demanded. Cid was mortified. Not only was there a real impostor, but they were incredibly lame. Alexia charged forward. Suddenly, 2 more cloaked figures appeared, surrounding her. 3 people against a frail maiden? She scoffed defiantly. Before she could react, one of the impostors buried a fist in her stomach, sending a spray of blood from her mouth as she doubled over in pain.